Well, it's April the 15th, formally a tax day. Of course, it's been postponed to, May the 17th this year. Anyway, a lot of things have developed here. First thing I want to address is this appointment of and hearing on Kristen Clarke to be Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. Now, this lady is a very interesting person because she apparently has made blatantly racist comments. She has claimed that because white people lack the melanin that the people of African descent have, that they're somehow mentally and physically and racially inferior. And I thought that was a rather interesting, notable argument. You could imagine if something analogous had happened with a white nominee to anything, not a position as sensitive as Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, the person would be out immediately. Instead, of course, the Democrats are pushing right ahead with this person who seems to be an avowed racist, or at least has strong racist tendencies. And so I think that it behooves every Republican to vote against her, and hopefully we can get a Democrat to go along with it, that she's really not the right person to send a unifying message. Because if she gets in there, you know what's going to happen. She's going to aggressively go after the police forces in this country and try to intimidate them into not effectively enforcing the law, which will create more riots and trouble. A very bad individual, and certainly for the wrong position. It'd be something else if she was in some relatively innocuous thing over in, I don't know, the Commerce Department or something. Probably could even do damage there, but it's certainly in that very sensitive job, we need somebody that seems to be more balanced and definitely not a racist. Now, another thing has just popped up overnight. And by the way, if you like these videos, remember to, if you're on YouTube, to subscribe. You can forward links to people, and of course, I appreciate any comments, because we need to get the message out here. This is a very serious situation. Now, I want to get on to the other issue just popped up is, of course, we have a Democrat proposal in 6 days to pack the Supreme Court with exactly 4 liberal justices. Now, think about this. A week ago, I put out a video here. A week ago, Joe Biden proposed a commission, which turned out to be an almost all liberal commission with a few token conservatives to study the issue. And in my last video, I pointed out that the study could only lead to one outcome, and that would be to basically what they just let the cat out of the bag yesterday. I mean, why 4? Why not 2? And why not 6? Well, 4 is the exact number of liberals they would have to make sure you had a 7 to 6 majority of liberals on the Supreme Court. A totally political act with no other justification whatsoever. And so I just think that should be pointed out. That and remember, the Supreme Court itself hasn't been making a lot of really extreme decisions. I mean, for instance, they totally rejected Trump's election challenges, right? I mean, they haven't. About the only thing that's even slightly controversial was their ruling that basically that religious organizations ought to be treated the same way as secular organizations in terms of lockdowns. And that's really outrageous. I think it's quite reasonable, actually. So at this point in time, of course, it probably has the effect of more intimidating the court into not taking the actions they should take and not upholding the positions they should uphold than it does in actually happening. It seems a little unlikely that this will actually pass. For one thing, Joe Manchin has stated categorically he's not for eliminating the filibuster and won't vote to do it. If he actually stays to that, and I see no reason why he wouldn't, because if the pressure gets too great, he has a simple answer. Switch to the Republican Party and deny them their majority exactly. So, I mean, I think he's in a very strong position, yet while remaining in the Democrat Party, he can also get what he needs for his own state. So I think ultimately it probably won't really pass, although I think as a safeguard, I would recommend Republicans go all out to pressure members of the House. Democrats that are in competitive House seats that they're planning on targeting, to pressure them very strongly not to vote for this. Because if just a handful of Democrats don't vote for it, it won't pass in the House, and therefore it won't ever become a real issue. And so I think that's something to consider. But at the same time, I think it may or may not have an intimidating effect on the Supreme Court. Hopefully the Supreme Court will play things very tactically, would be my thought. That is, not to cave to it, but simply to equivocate. In other words, when really controversial things come up, just pass it down for reconsideration and play ping pong with it until the threat is removed, or until we get into the next, congressional session. Because I think that right now the big issue would be probably certain gun control measures that are going to be on hold. Even some of those are not really that big yet. An actual assault weapons ban nationwide hasn't been passed. And I think the Ninth Circuit Court was ruled that the Second Amendment doesn't give you the right to carry a firearm or whatever, which seems to be somewhat of a blatant, challenge to the Second Amendment. I mean, you could rule against that in ways that wouldn't be that dramatic, but along the Heller decision line. But the point is that the whole structure of our constitutional system that we've known for all of our lives is at risk, and that was what I've been saying since the beginning of these videos last summer. And that's kind of what motivated me to get into this. This is a very serious issue about the future of the country. And it also, if it were to happen, we'd have a situation where the Democrats would be in a position to basically lock in potentially a one-party rule, barring a mass rebellion by the people at the polls. And I don't know whether that would happen or not. I mean, it hasn't happened in California yet, so we'll see. Although there are sporadic pushbacks, but generally speaking, look at the situation they're in. You have a pro-criminal district attorney in L.A. that's basically letting very violent criminals off easy. It's disbanding the gang task force and so forth. And the same kind of things going on. Look at the situation here with the situation up in Minnesota here. You have a mayor who basically has fired a city manager for calling for due process. And now the police chief is out, and for basically saying the obvious truth that's on the body cam camera. This was obviously an accident, a horrible accident, but an accident at that point. And so this is the kind of thing where you're going to have the issue. The Democrats have gone increasingly pro-criminal, I guess because the criminal class, in so much as they vote Democrat, and they are the people who are willing to cheat for them. I mean, you don't think that too many of your mainstream, upper middle class professional Democrats are going to really go out and engage in ballot fraud, do you? I don't think many of them will, but I think a lot of the more close to criminal elements or thereabout are probably willing to do that for them. And so I think that's one reason, and also the idea that, for instance, if you can, take away all the restrictions on voting for convicted felons, well, hey, there's a whole new group of people that they can hope to recruit. This has been kind of the theme of the Democrat Party for decades, has been to try to get the most marginalized individuals motivated to vote for them by giving them some kind of a goodie and then skewing things against the general good of the public. And that's the essence of this party, and it's kind of sinking into lower and lower dimensions at all times. Well, and now there's another thing I'd like to mention here before I close. Another police shooting. A boy named 16-year-old named Peyton Ham confronted a police officer with an airsoft pistol and apparently also had a knife. I don't know if it was a real knife or a play knife, but let's assume it's a real knife. At any rate, apparently some nosy neighbor decided to call the police, a state trooper showed up, and what does this fool do? Well, he points his airsoft gun at the police officer, and the police officer shoots him. But apparently only wounded. The kid now tries to go for his knife and gets shot again, and eventually, well, he was taken to the hospital and apparently died of his wounds. By the way, this kid is white. And so far as I've seen, there's been no riot. There's been no press outcry. There's been none of this stuff. Interesting, huh? Well, actually, in my opinion, this kid was supposed to be bright. To me, it seems to me like he kind of failed the Darwin test there, you know? I mean, you don't point replica guns at police officers in tactical situations if you want to stay alive. That's just stupid. But I'm making the point here that this happens to everybody when you do something really dangerous and provocative in a police tactical situation. It isn't race-based at all. They'll shoot down a middle-class white kid just as quick as they'll shoot down a lower-class black kid. That's just the way it is if you pose that kind of apparent threat. And I don't see what else the police officer is going to do. Assume it's not a real gun and then get himself shot? Okay, so I just wanted to kind of point that case out too, which I'm sure the press isn't pointing out very much. At any rate, I'll close this for now. And like I say, I think if you are in a district where you have a Democrat representative that, let's say, barely won the district, or you think the district is competitive, contact them at, www.house.gov. All you have to do is put in your zip code and you can find the contact information, or call up their office and tell them you don't want this packing of the Supreme Court. There's no reason to increase the Supreme Court membership by any amount, let alone by 4. I'll close this for now. Until next time.